Welcome to Rich Conversations. I'm in New York this week, so I thought I would do something a little different than our usual format. I thought I would take a moment and just reflect a little bit, do some riffing. I've had around 30 conversations so far, including practice ones before the posted ones. And New York gets mentioned more times than any other place. Chicago is known as the second city, and while most think of the Chicago Fire in 1871, it also gained that nickname because of its battle against New York for the Columbian Exposition. There's kind of this little brother syndrome that Chicagoans experience with New York, and this chip on our shoulder is not just a contemporary thing. It dates back all the way to the late 19th century. And while we pride ourselves on doing our own thing and not worrying about other places, we do tend to glance at New York from the corner of our eyes. But there's such a connection between the two cities. New York started off as New Amsterdam, and about a year ago, I read Colin Woodard's book, American Nations, and he breaks down the continental U.S. into 11 different regions with its own distinct history and culture, and New Amsterdam is one of them. It was founded by the Dutch people, and basically an extension of what they were already doing in the city of Amsterdam. It was this massive trading post and center of commerce, and in the 17th and 18th century, the Dutch people were basically running the world and just commerce heavy, business first. And they were uniquely tolerant. I use that word loosely, but of just other people and religions. And New Amsterdam was just business first. That's what we're doing here. And Chicago in the 1840s, it had been competing with St. Louis as this trading post and this competition with the Mississippi River and getting goods down there. And so Chicago invested a lot in digging these canals. They had a bunch of Irish immigrants come over and basically dug these canals so that you could go from Lake Michigan through the Chicago River, through these canals and over to the Mississippi River. And by the time they were done, railroads started to become a thing. And Chicago, luckily, was smart and didn't give into, that sunken cost mentality of, oh, we already stuck all this money into these canals. We can't invest more in these railroads. But they saw it as the future. So they then became a railroad powerhouse. And anything to get to the West, the Midwest, had to go through Chicago. And so moving forward, New York was basically, and the East Coast, they were the manufacturing centers, and they would send all the stuff and goods westward. And then in return, Chicago fed the entire country. All the grain and the meat would go through Chicago and its railroads. So there's this exchange where New York was giving us stuff, and then we would feed New York, and kind of this connection that way. But the reason I'm actually out there is I've been working on my third book, and it's actually an art book. It's a long story, but I'm creating these art pieces with primary colors. And in the book, along with these pieces of art, are two statements about life lessons that I've learned. And so I've done a lot of research, especially over the past 4 months, into modern art. And modern art is my favorite because it's a time in human history where it felt like the reins were off, and people could just be no, this is how I feel about the world, or this is how I feel about life, this is how I feel in general, and you could just express it this big creative freedom movement. And I think it's really cool. So some of the artists that I've been into recently are Jasper Johns, Joseph Albers, Annie Albers, Bridget Riley, Tama Apts. I think that's how you spell her name or pronounce her name. It's amazing with an open mind how much you can learn. It's crazy. I've just gotten really into art because art is everywhere. It's on the sidewalks when you're walking down the street. It's on our buildings. It's everywhere. Or life life is art. So you can find all these different things, and I use it as inspiration in the book that I'm working on. But I'm going to MoMA and the Whitney Museum to just get some last minute research, see if there's anything I'm missing. I feel like I'm at a good spot right now. But yeah, just go in there and get some work done and see some friends and do some cool stuff as well. Ken and I have been finishing up Millie Moves to the Farm, and that will come out in December. We'll have some events around it. We'll let you know a little bit closer to it. But it's looking great. Ken's done an awesome job, and it's really cool to have this idea that you have, and I don't have the skills to draw and make this, but Ken does, and it's crazy to have like these stick figures that I draw, and Ken makes it into this like really awesome scene, and it's cool. I'm so excited to share that with you guys and everybody. It's a story of my grandma moving from the city to the farm in like the Great Depression era, and her adjusting and having to look to a positive outlet to get through a difficult time and a time of adversity. And I think it's a really important message: perseverance and positivity. So we're super excited to get that out. We've been working on it for the past year or so. But other than that, thanks for listening to this different style of rich conversations. Have a wonderful week, and look for the art in your week, in your life. Look for the positive things, and be grateful to just be a part of all this that we're experiencing. We'll talk to you next week.